This is episode 3 of Aspire PGC's Career Day podcast. My name is Ellegood. I want to welcome back everyone who joined us for our first two conversations and, of course, give a warm welcome to those tuning in for the first time. Our guest today is actor and producer Jessie Evans. And just a little bit about him. He's done several national commercials, a Netflix pilot where he portrayed a young Frank Lucas, a short film that was shortlisted for a BAFTA. And he's also recently worked on Young Sheldon, so it's a lot to get into today. All right, Jesse, I want to thank you for being on the podcast. I like to start each show just asking each of my guests what a day in their life is like. And so you're both an actor and producer. I guess if you could just let us know what's a random day, what it can be, what it can entail for someone who's an actor.
That's a great question. It really can run the gamut. I mean, like I could wake up and not have much planned, and I could wake up and have like a million things. So I don't know. I guess I'll just pick like a random day.
Okay.
Usually, like for as an actor, it used to be like if I had an audition, then I would wake up and go over my sides. And sides are basically like the part of the script that you're going to be acting out for the casting director or the producers.
Mm,
And then I would go and like print a headshot and then travel to the audition and do the audition, blah blah blah. But things are so different now, like post COVID, and so like a lot of things are like self tapes nowadays. And so I will usually that involves me going to like a studio, a self tape studio, or calling a friend to be a reader. And they'll come
so
over and we'll. Oh,
I'm
sorry, am I
sorry.
moving too
When you say
fast?
no, it's fine, but a self-tape studio, I've never heard that term. Like,
Oh
what is?
yeah, it's fairly new. So like so with like the onslaught of like so many self tapes nowadays, and a self tape is basically when instead of going in person for an audition, you'll do the audition at home and you'll like record it. A lot of people love self tapes. I'm not the biggest fan of self tapes. Like I would much rather like be in the room with the casting director and with the producers. Um, but another reason why I don't like self tapes is because you have to like have like professional. They say you don't have to, but like it's better if you have like professional equipment and professional lighting and all that other good stuff. And I don't like to do all that. Like I just like to focus on like the acting. And so with a self-tape studio, you can go pay X amount of money. Usually it's like $50 or something like that for the hour. They have a reader there, so you don't have to like ask your friends to be a reader. um, and they have like all the professional equipment, and you can just go and just act, and then they like send you your audition, and then you can send it to the casting director.
So since self-tape studios are available now, and you're saying that self-tape auditions are more, have started to proliferate, I guess, acting, is it? Do you feel like you get more opportunities to audition now? Is it that much of a difference, or it's just a different way of doing things?
A lot of my friends say that they get more opportunities. I hear a lot in casting directors say that now have the opportunity to see more actors. But for me myself, I haven't seen like a vast difference. Actually, I felt like I was able to. I was getting more auditions when I could go in person, and I think like a big part of like acting
Hmm.
especially for me, is like being in the room. You guys can see my personality. I can
Okay.
take adjustments like on the spot. Like you can't do that with self tape. And so
Mm.
yeah, I am 100% a fan of in person auditions. I can't wait, and I hope that they come back soon.
I I actually want to actually take a little deep dive on auditions with you because I think the first time, excuse me, first time I went out to LA, you made a comment to me, and you, if I misquote you, forgive me. I think you said, um, and just so the audience is aware, I'm a composer. Is one of the things I do creatively. I think you said to me, Jarrell, when they're judging you, I forget what you said. They're judging my music, but as an actor on an audition, they're actually judging you as a person. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Do you remember that?
Um,
You might not.
no, but it makes sense. It makes sense. It
It's
makes
something
sense.
you said, and it kind of put it in perspective for me because when I do a quote unquote audition as a composer, I just send music out. I don't have to worry about wardrobe. I don't have to worry about my hair. I don't have to even really have an up to date headshot. It could just be a SoundCloud link is how they access me. So, what is it like, I guess, for an in person audition? How does that work?
Um, so for in-person auditions, you usually like have to go. Well, shit, back in the day, you would have to like go and like print out your headshot. Now sometimes you
Oh,
don't have to do that because everything's digital.
okay.
But you show up, you usually sign in, and then you see like people in the room that look exactly like you, or like people that like give off like the same aura as you. And so whenever I used to go into auditions, I would see like Keith Powers, Diggy Simmons, like those young
Wow.
like actors, those who we would audition for like the same types of roles. We have that
Mm-hmm.
like the same look, same feel. So you'll see people like that, which can be intimidating sometimes, especially when
Okay.
you see like an A-lister in a room. Like my friend, she used to always go out for roles, and she would like roles the same roles that Kiki Palmer would go out for. Like that can
Hmm.
be intimidating because you grew up with these people and you knew these people. And then you usually wait around, and then the assistant you or the casting director calls you into the room. You come in, usually like stand on your mark, which is usually like a piece of tape or something like on the floor.
Okay.
If they're recording the audition, and then usually slate, which is like saying your name, or a slate is an introduction, and it varies from office to office. Sometimes it's your name, sometimes it's who you're repped by, sometimes it's the role you're auditioning for. It varies, but they tell you what they want you to include in your slate, and then you do the audition. You read your character's lines, and then the casting director, or if they have a reader, they read the other person's lines off screen.
Okay.
And usually they just want to see what you came up with, what you brought to the table. Like, what's your take on the character? And then sometimes they've seen enough, and you're good to go. Or other times, usually they give you an adjustment. It could be something like, "Oh,
Hmm.
I love what you did there. Could we like maybe do it as if she were really sad about X, Y, and Z?" And that's the part that I really love. Like
Okay.
that feels like collaborative, and it feels fun, and I get to explore and find new things. And I think that that part is what's missing in the self tape. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah.
What is there? I guess because to someone who's not an actor, just an audition period just seems overwhelming and intimidating. What is, I guess, something that maybe you might find intimidating being in that space, or are there ways you might be made uncomfortable just by the scope of it?
I don't personally, but I'm enthralled by it because I'm a performer. I like to perform. But people that might find that intimidating, just think of it as a job interview. Like, because technically, that's what they are. You're going in there and you're showing them what you got. You got your resume, you have your headshot, and this is me. Do it. Instead of answering questions, you're performing the piece. Um, so honestly, maybe there's a little bit of actor in all of us because I know people be up in them, up in them interviews acting.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about just some of the type of work that you've done as an actor. And I do want to get to, the production side. I know you worked on production as well, but as far as the type of work you've done as an actor and on screen, can you talk to us about that?
Sure, I was on Nickelodeon, um, Danger Force, which was a lot of fun. Young Sheldon.
I saw
I
that.
was
I
on
saw the
Drug
Young
Lords
Sheldon
on
thing.
Netflix. Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun. The guy who plays Young Sheldon is really cool. Um, I was Netflix, Drug Lords on Netflix. I was a series regular on a show called Crisis Earth.
Mm,
That actually hasn't come out yet,
okay.
but it was great. I got to work with a lot of legends
Crisis
on
Earth
that,
is
so it was really cool.
Netflix.
No, it's gonna be on Sci-Fi, I believe.
Wow.
I think
Okay.
they sold it to Sci-Fi. Um, and what else have I done? Oh, I did Upscale with Prentice Penny, who is a showrunner for Insecure. He had like his own show on True TV,
Okay.
where I played like a younger version of him. It was great working with him. He was a super nice guy. Um, yeah, I mean, and I've done like a bunch of like short films. Um, One of them was shortlisted for a BAFTA, which was fun. I was the lead in
Nice.
that. Um, and then like my own work that I produce. Uh, my most recent short film being Out of Air that premiered at the Oscar qualifying American Black Film Festival, which was a crazy
Oh wow.
experience. Uh, and it was actually the year that Issa Rae was like hosting it, and she told me that she saw my film that she really loved it, and I was like, ah,
That's awesome.
thank you, Issa.
That's awesome.
um, yeah. So yeah, that's just some of the things that I have done.
How did
Some network, some broadcast.
how do you get into this space? Because you just rattled off a whole bunch of things, and again, I know someone, not an actor. Not a lot of young people who are interested in this field. How do you position yourself? I think the classical mode of thought is you got to be in LA or you got to go to New York, you got to be in Atlanta. But you can be in those places and nothing happened for you. I lived there for 5 years and I know people who, there's one thing they did. Now, in some cases, that one project they did was like something, huge, but still, you could still have a lull in opportunities or gigs. So, how do you navigate that space in terms of not only finding opportunities but continuing to bring new ones in for yourself?
Yeah. Listen, I I want to start off by answering that question by saying if you enjoy acting, that is great. If there's something else that you can do and be happy, I would encourage you to do that.
Okay.
And that sounds and that it sounds maybe negative, but it's really not. Um it's actually the truth because in a union, we have the largest union, the SAG-AFTRA union. We have the largest union in the United States, I believe.
Hmm.
Fact check me, but I'm pretty sure that we do. And like I think it's like less than 2% of the people in that union make their living from acting.
Okay.
So that means that most of the people, 95% of the people in that union, have to do other things to survive. And that's why you hear like
That makes
you hear
sense.
things like, "Oh, you throw a rock in L.A." or what's the saying? Like every waiter at a restaurant is an actor or something like that. There's a little bit of truth to that because actors have to find and do other things to survive because it's so difficult to make it in this
I
industry.
know when
It is
you,
emotionally taxing.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, you're saying that have something else for a person to do. And I know a lot of times we tell the kids that, be able to pivot in terms of going into something else. For you, is there something you look at as a backup or like as production you see as something that's, another thing for you in case maybe acting isn't, maybe there's a period where it's not acting is not happening at that moment the way you want. And so is that a time where you segue to production or you kind of just do it all at once?
No, I've always done it all at once. So I've never been interested in
Okay.
just acting. I've always wanted to write and produce as well. So that's never been the case for me. But in terms of like a backup for, I have no backup plan for like if the entertainment industry doesn't work out. You know what I mean? Like I'm not
Mm.
gonna like stop and be a lawyer. And I know people that I met them when I came out when I went out to LA like 10 years ago, and eventually they left and became lawyers or
Mm.
became like started working in the healthcare field or something like that, and they're still happy. And so when I say like if you can do something else and be happy, you should do that. I mean that because acting like this exploring this as a career can be taxing emotionally, financially,
Mm.
spiritually, all of that. It can be very, very difficult. um when you talk about like you can come out there and nothing happen because you don't know what you're doing, you can know what you're doing and still nothing
Mm-hmm.
happen. I have a
Mm.
friend of a friend who was out there for 11 years, and who was couldn't even get a network audition. She had the agent, she had the
Oh,
manager, she had the headshot, she had the all that stuff, and she just couldn't even get an audition. And eventually, she was like, I have to move on. I have to find something else to do with my life because this is not working. And so
did she have anything else that she was maybe interested in doing entertainment related, or it was just acting or
I think
nothing?
she has since pivoted into like marketing, I believe.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that during that time she was doing acting like 100%. Um, it can be hard. It can be difficult. So I forgot the original question, but
I was just saying about like like people, because like I was saying, we tell the kids to be able to pivot or having quote unquote backup plans.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess I want it to be, I want kids to, and I guess I'm saying kids. This podcast is probably going to more so be for high school students. This episode, just so they can see kind of a realistic route to get into maybe the entertainment industry. Um, I know right now a lot of people are doing stuff on social media, doing
Mhm.
stuff on their phones, TikTok, and all that. But I think in a lot of cases, there's a lot of unrealistic expectations about where that can take them. I have students that say, I want to be an influencer when I grow up,
Mhm.
and I just don't feel like that's the most realistic thing.
Mhm.
But I think at the same time, it can also seem unrealistic to get into acting as well. Um,
Yeah. I'll never, I never, I will never be one to shoot down anyone's dreams and say that something is not possible.
okay.
I think that anything is possible, but I'm also a firm believer in seeing like, is it probable?
Hmm.
Um, because you want to also look at that as well. So it's 100% possible. I know someone else who moved to LA, and in a month he booked like this huge show that is now huge. It's going on like its sixth season. He was in LA for a month,
Wow.
right? That's rare. That doesn't always happen. Oppositely, I know dozens of people who moved out here 10, 12 years ago and are, haven't been able to find that type of success or haven't been able to land on a show. So if you're the type of person that's like probability be damned, I don't care if I'm not an actor, what is my life reason?
Hmm.
If you're like that, sure, this is what you need to do. I personally don't think that oh my god, I'm gonna catch so much shit for this. I think that college is important, not just even for like learning, but for
Okay.
like the experience. Never again in your life will you be that age, surrounded by that many people your age,
Mm,
doing the things that you can do. I think that college is so much more important than just like going to class and stuff. Like you learn so much, you meet so many people, you learn things about yourself. So I think that people should go to college, like honestly, for that reason alone. But if you're gonna go to college for like acting, you should probably go to a school that's like known for like their acting program,
okay.
like a NYU or a Juilliard or a Yale School of Drama.
So
I know a lot of. Oh, go
no,
ahead.
no, you can continue. I'm sorry.
Now, I've just met several people that went to like a school in like Texas somewhere that is not very known for its acting program, and then they get to Hollywood, and it's like they have to like start all over again.
Hmm.
All the people that I know that went to school for acting, they don't learn the business of acting, and it's show business. You know what I mean? So it's 50% show, 50% business,
If I'm,
and so they're like having to like start all over.
I was gonna ask if I'm a ninth grade student or a 10th grader in high school, and I see myself as an actor. Should I just be looking towards, okay, do well in high school, go to a university with a, as you say, a very, solid acting program? What maybe should I be thinking about as a young person who wants to seriously get into that? Because right now I don't, excuse me, I don't know what I would tell them. I know if they want to get into a science related field, I know what to tell them. If they want to do athletics or something, I can kind of rattle off a response. But for acting, and then a lot of other stuff in the entertainment industry, even someone who's been involved in it directly, I don't necessarily, I don't know what to say to them in like confidently. Oh, this is how you should go about it.
This is going to sound so crazy, and you might find a whole bunch of people that disagree with me, but I don't care.
Okay.
Honestly, most people would be like, do plays, do get
Oh
involved in your community
yeah.
theater. Yes, do that. Absolutely, 100%. Also, I'm speaking to people that want to be film and TV actors. Stage is a different beast, and that is not my field of expertise. I've never done Broadway. I would love to one day, but that's not my route. For film and TV, if you want to be a film and TV actor, a life live a real life outside of acting. There are so
Mm.
many actors that have just acted their whole life. But our point is to imitate life. It is to take on the lives of people that were not actors. So diversify your actual life. Sure, you can do plays and stuff, and you should. You absolutely should do that. But you should also play different sports, join different clubs, live other lives, acquire other skills.
So it's
Those things, learn how to play an instrument or something. Those types of things, the people that came out to Hollywood and they were like trying to supplement their income with like commercials, because that's a great way to supplement your income. The people who had skills were the people that were booking them. Like I knew a friend who played the saxophone very well. He booked like 6 national commercials. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars in
wow.
like the span of a year because he had that one special skill. As opposed to the person who spent all of their high school career focusing on acting and being an actor, which I which is important, you should do, but like also diversify your skill set. Like learn how to play an instrument, learn a new language, play a new sport, pick up new hobbies, live a full life. I think that's just as important to being an actor as taking an acting class.
Okay.
Again, I might get a lot of people who disagree with me, but that's what I feel.
Okay. I want to talk about how you got in production, and I want to segue into young people if they want to also create content. It's something a lot of them are already doing. I have students, they show me some of their stuff. Some of their stuff is inappropriate. But just how does that work in terms of someone who maybe wants to be behind the
Yeah.
camera?
Um, they have it a lot easier than I had it because you can literally make a good film on your smartphone. It's actually something that I've just started doing.
Hmm.
Um, but the way that I started, so I was in college at Morgan State University, and I wanted to act, but there were no in film and TV, but there were no opportunities like in Baltimore at the time, or none that I knew of. And so I wrote like this comedy musical drama, and afterwards I was like, well, what now?
Hmm.
And I was like, well, dang, I guess I have to produce it. I had never produced anything in my life. I didn't know what I was doing. So I literally just Googled how to produce a TV show. And I posted an ad on Craigslist. And the first person to respond was someone I'm still friends with now, who now I think is an executive at Disney. Her
Wow.
name's Princess. And she had just graduated from film school and she reached out and she was like, I'd love to help you. And so she helped me like produce this. And then like maybe like 2 months later, I had a crew of like 40 people, a cast of like 20,
Wow.
no budget. It was crazy. I don't know how, just like thinking back, I don't know how this happened. But we ended up producing it over 8 shoot days, and it was great. And then it aired locally in Baltimore. And then I was like, oh, I love this. And then I produced another short film called Bloodline, and I produced another short film called Trigger, and which turned out to be like award winning.
Nice.
And this was all in Baltimore. And then I was like, okay, like this is what I want to do with my life. And so as soon as I graduated, I moved to LA and I started working in fashion first because I was working in fashion PR because that's what I had known. That's what I always thought that I would do with my life. I lasted a month before I quit, and I was like, yeah, I'm
Mm.
gonna be. Um, Starting now, it has never been easier. Like if you have an iPhone, which most people do,
Hmm.
you can shoot in cinematic mode, and if you really want to get fancy, you can shoot in video mode and shoot in ProRes,
Okay.
which is raw footage, which is absolutely mind-boggling crazy to me, like as a filmmaker.
I
And
I've seen them
but
settings on my phone, but I have not messed with them. I know on my
mhm.
DSLR, somebody told me I should be shooting in RAW all the time.
Yeah, like if you're shooting in raw, it allows you to manipulate the image better in post production. So it's crazy that like your iPhone is now offering that. But let's say you don't know anything about that. You can literally Google how to shoot cinematic things on your iPhone, and a YouTube uh, video will pop up that will teach you. You can go to udemy.com, which has like literally lessons of how to shoot like on how to shoot cinematic content on your iPhone is absolutely bonkers to me. It's so cool. So quite honestly, if you want to be shooting cinematic narrative things, you should be doing that every single weekend with your friends. You can do that.
How important is it for kids to any young person or just anyone period who wants to get into film and entertainment? Because you spoke about having diverse experiences as a person will lend itself to being a great actor, but in terms of creating art, how important do you think it is for people to kind of expose themselves to different types of films? Like me personally, I'm a film nerd, so I've realized over the years I casually am just into so many different things cinematically, but there's a lot of people who I'll talk to them and they won't know what I'm talking about. They won't know entire genres of film. They won't be familiar with certain directors and stuff. And sometimes I wonder if that can kind of skew you towards maybe a limited, more limited success. Do you think it's important, I guess, to just kind of expose yourself to all the different types of filmmaking and the types of movies that are out there, the type of TV shows out there?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, with anything else, you want to know the industry that you're going in. And so I definitely think it's important for you to check out all types of films. Check out films that are successful. Check out films that weren't so successful. Check out, art house films. Check out big blockbuster films. I think it's important to watch a myriad of different types of film, from experimental to traditional to blockbusters. I definitely think that that's super important. I'm actually a bit of a hypocrite because I need to get up on it too. There are some films that I have not seen, and if I tell you right now, you would be like, "Oh my God, and you're a filmmaker?" So yeah, it's important.
But one thing I also wanted to ask too is just in general about the whole thing of a starving artist. Because as a composer, as a musician, that's something I've dealt with is not always making money or always finding opportunities as a creative. And so as an actor, and you don't have to, go. I don't want you to go into situations that maybe made you uncomfortable, but what is the level of expectation, maybe not just for actors, but in your opinion for creatives, period, if they're going to go out to LA, um, just in terms of that sort of lifestyle of, trying to make it in the entertainment industry? Say you're coming from Baltimore, coming from Prince George's County. I know when I was out in LA, there were things I experienced for the first time that profoundly changed, how I just thought about
Hmm.
trying to make it as a composer, as a musician.
Hmm.
It made me question sometimes how bad I wanted it. So could you speak to, I guess, just what people can expect in terms of living in LA? It's something a lot of people want to do. And even if I say, oh, well, go to New York or go to Atlanta for film, even going to those cities is not the same as going to live in LA.
Hmm.
So could you just speak to, I guess, how that's had an impact on you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would say obviously like everyone's experience is different moving to LA. Um, I know at the beginning you said that you were going to ask, you know, what's a typical day like in your what's a typical day like in your life, and you said you were also going to ask like what's a bad day in your life. And the only thing that I could think of that makes a day like kind of
Mm-hmm.
suck a little bit is when you get rejected.
Yep.
So like
Mm-hmm.
as an actor or even as a producer as well, you'll get like, oh, we're gonna pass on you for this film.
Mm.
You're not right for the part. We're gonna pass on this on your script. We're gonna pass on this, and you get that a lot. And oftentimes we, as human beings, and especially as artists, we tend to internalize that rejection. And this is probably the quote that you were trying to come up with earlier. But sometimes that rejection feels deeply personal because you're not rejecting anything external, right? You're not rejecting the music that I made or this or that. It feels like you're rejecting me because
Mm.
I'm the actor, I'm the instrument, I'm the art. It feels like you're rejecting me, and so any sane person can only take but so much rejection before it starts to really get to you. And I think that that's why sometimes a lot of people refer to LA as like a sunny hell because it's sunny and it's beautiful outside, but there are some people who are like deeply unhappy. And it's why you hear so many terrible things about Hollywood
Mm.
is because it can sometimes be a town filled with like deeply unhappy people. And not without reason. Now, all that said, I have learned that like community is so important and finding community is so important. And it took me a while to realize that, and then even longer to find my community. But once I did, I am able to call, now I'm able to call LA like home because I have a
Mm.
community there. I have support, I have encouragement, I have love. Um,
Okay.
I've also learned that like the grind life, you know, it ain't for me. I'm a hard worker, you know. Like I'm no longer part of like grind till you die. Like that's not me. You can have that gang. Like I'm okay. I'm good. Um, I like to enjoy the fruits of my labor. Yeah, no, I'm not one of them. I like to enjoy the fruits of my labor. And that said, you will never find a harder worker. Like my work ethic is unmatched, but I've also realized the importance of like work-life balance. As an actor or as a creative, we tend to make that about
Mm.
our lives. And I know that I'm gonna speak from personal experience and get a little vulnerable here. I would look at like people I went to college or high school with, and they're married, they're having kids, they're having full lives, and here I am, still like chasing auditions. And I look up and I'm like, man, am I missing out on actually having a life because I'm in grind mode?
Mm.
And so work-life balance is important.
I think I wouldn't look at it that way because I think when you go out for an audition, I don't know. I think a lot of times with traditional type of work, if you try to get a job, you're applying for a position. It might seem like an audition, but I don't think it's competitive in the same way. I mean, you could write all types of things on your resume. You can put all types of things on LinkedIn. You can go to the interview and pretend to be that person and it work out for you. Um, but I don't think in a lot of creative stuff, specifically acting, it could still all come down to the audition, and it doesn't really matter what you put on the internet. It may not even matter what films or productions you were a part of before. The audition could still be the ultimate decider.
Or it could
So
not
I
be.
I,
Or
I think
or it could
I
not
wouldn't look
be.
at it like.
It's not a meritocracy out here. It's not like, I have X amount of work.
Hmm.
I sh-
Well, you're the expert,
it's not like
so.
I have X amount of work, so I should get this. It's not like, oh, I have a co-star, so now I should go and do a guest star. It doesn't always work like that. Sometimes you don't book the job because I don't know, you look like the director's wife, ex-wife, and he don't like his ex-wife. Or maybe you're too tall and the lead is 5 foot and you're like 6'2", you're great, but you're too tall. You don't look right with the. There's so many factors that are like outside of your control. It gets frustrating because there's so little that you can control in your acting career. It feels like there's not much. So all you can do is like show up to the audition and do your best. And even when you do that, you can still get rejected. So that's why I think sometimes it can feel harrowing, it can feel lonely, it can feel hopeless because of things like that. And this is real life for a lot of my peers and a lot of my friends. Um, I do think that I'm sounding a bit negative here. It's not all like that. Like there are great moments, and there are definitely like times to be had. Um, but I want to make no mistake. Like a career in the entertainment industry is not for the faint of heart. It's not rocket
Okay.
science, but it's not an easy career to pursue.
I want to talk a little specifically about Young Sheldon. Could you navigate us in terms of how you ended up, getting that gig, what it was like to, interact with the folks that work on and produce that show? Because, like I said, you've told us a lot of the different productions you've been a part of. But for someone who's not in acting, if you were to say that you're on any one of these things, it's like that in and of itself is kind of super amazing. Just that one
Hmm.
thing. Um,
Wow,
like
thank
to
you.
me,
No, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, someone tells me that they're on, a network TV show. I'm like, man, that person made it. I would think, man, I would just want one opportunity at that level as a composer, just to have my music in one thing at that level. So could you talk to us, I guess, about how the Young Sheldon thing kind of came about?
Yeah, I'm. Thank you first for saying that, and I do want to highlight the importance of like gratitude. I am super grateful for like the opportunities that um, I've been afforded, the opportunities that God has given me. Like I'm very grateful. I think that sometimes the ambitiousness, like that ambitious person in me is always like, oh, I want to reach higher levels. I want to reach higher levels. So sometimes I forget to like stop and be grateful. So thank you for that. Um, but the Young Sheldon thing was pretty straightforward. I got the audition. My manager reached out to me, asked me if I wanted to do it. Um, I said yes, I would love to do the audition. Um, I was unsure because I literally just gotten out of the hospital, and I didn't know that if I was ever going to be able to act again, honestly.
Hmm.
Um, but I auditioned. They loved the audition, and I got the job. So it was pretty straightforward. I booked it off of a tape, so I didn't go into the room. This was all off of tape.
Wow.
I got on set. Everyone was nice. I had friends that worked on Young Sheldon before. They all thought it was great.
Okay.
Their experience was great. Mine was no different.
It's just crazy how you just saying it so casually, and I'm like, this is a big deal. Oh, I had friends on that show. It's just another TV
No,
show. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound casual about it. I guess because it's my life. It's like every day. So like I have
Hmm.
friends that are like that are on shows that are like leads on shows. And these are people who I know personally, who I know have struggles just like everybody else. Um, so for me, it's like a day in the office type of thing, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest. But it is what it is. But it was great. And then afterwards, I actually know some of the executives that sort of like work on Young Sheldon or that like oversee it. And so I like contacted them and I thanked them for the opportunity and asked them to check it out and stuff. But it was a great experience. I loved everybody on set. Everybody was super accommodating. At the time, I actually had to have a cane.
Hmm.
You can't tell like in the show, but I had to have a cane, and so there was someone there who would literally like walk me to my seat, and I would hand them my cane, and then as soon as the director said cut, they would give me my cane back so I could walk. So it was super grateful. They were so
Okay.
helpful and inclusive. Um, I loved it, and they said, with Young Sheldon, it's always a possibility that they would call your character back. I think my character's name was like Paul or something like that, So my fingers are always crossed that they call Paul back. Let me tell you. And then one thing about being on network television is that the money is so great, like the residuals.
Mm,
And then when you versus like streaming where the residuals are not that great. So like I've gotten like three or four uh residual checks that have like paid my rent for the month since I did that.
nice.
So like thank God for Young Sheldon.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah. Great experience.
You mentioned when you mentioned a second ago about you said your manager or your agent. Um,
Hmm.
and so I had a question, and this is maybe not necessarily well for younger folks, but also maybe for their parents who are thinking, "Oh, I want to get my child into entertainment." Could you talk about maybe just the importance of having an agent or a manager? Because I know for me, and I don't want to talk too much about myself on the podcast, but just real quick, when I was in Baltimore, I did this music video. It was a dance music video. I got three kids. They were like 16, 17 year olds. They danced in it. Fast forward, I'm in LA, and one of the kids is on TV. I look on TV. She's dancing in Rihanna's fashion show. I was like, wait, this is several years later. I'm like, that's the girl, in Baltimore. She danced in my
Hmm.
video and choreographed it. But now it's at a point, she has management now. And so if I want to work with her again, I have to go through her management now. And I mean, I just think that's, awesome. But
Hmm.
what can you say about the importance of having representation in terms of getting into the entertainment? And I know it's not something you may not have at the very beginning, but I do know it's something others may shy away from. Just what is that like of having an agent, having a manager? I have not made it to
Yeah.
that level yet. I know several people who have, and so like I said, it's interesting that you have to have this middleman to even work with them, and you have to negotiate differently than in the past. I just wrote up a contract. Now the contract would probably be given to me, and I'd have to agree to
Hmm.
their terms.
Yeah. Well, for acting specifically, if you want to be on like television, you're gonna have to have an agent or a manager or both.
Oh,
Um, it's a non-starter, and the only reason being, so we have what's called breakdowns, and that's basically like a description of the the show and a description of the characters for the show that are currently casting, and they're on something called Breakdown Express, and it's owned by and Breakdown Express has a company called Actors Access.
okay.
So when you're first starting out as an actor, you want to make an Actors Access account. You go on there, you put in your all of your credits, you upload your reel, you upload your headshots, and then you could submit for projects on there. So you'll see a project that says like I don't know, short film looking for black male has to look between the ages of 18 and 21. Okay, that's me. So then I go and I submit. Um, but that short film is maybe like an independent short film or something like that. If you want to be on like the TV shows and stuff, like network and broadcast and cable, those go through Breakdown Express. And regular actors, we don't have access to that. Only agents and managers have access to that. And they have to go through like a special
Mm,
process in order to get access to that. And so, therefore, we have to be represented by one of them so that they can submit on our behalf.
okay.
Does that make sense? I hope I explained that in a way that makes sense.
Okay. Because you're saying that you would need the representation to get those major gigs, but say you're working to that point. Is there a point
Hmm.
where you should start looking into having representation if you're trying to get your child into, maybe they've been on a
Yeah.
commercial. At that point, should you have representation? Should maybe you have a more extensive resume before you try to go that route?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's honestly, like I said before, Hollywood is not a meritocracy. Sometimes it's all about who you know. So, like, if you know someone
Mm.
who
Oh,
you
I
can get
know.
signed, you can get yeah, you can get signed right away with no credits at all. But let's say like you're like me and you go out there and you don't know anyone. Um, you can get a commercial agent relatively easily. As long as you have like a good look and like a great commercial look, and you can like recite some dialogue. Like getting a commercial agent is a lot easier, and usually the first thing that people do. So before you
Okay.
submit to that, before you even start looking for a commercial agent or whatever, the first thing is you want to do is get professional headshots. This is where people like to sort of like skimp and hire like any type of photographer. No, you want to hire a professional headshot photographer,
Mm,
and it's going to take some investment, like a monetary investment on your part. These could cost anywhere from like 300 to I've seen people charge like 1,200. That's
oh,
expensive and that's crazy. Um, but you can find a decent headshot photographer for about $300.
okay.
So you want to get some great headshots, some commercial headshots where you're like smiling and you look happy, and some theatrical headshots where you look like a little bit more serious. You want to put together your resume if you have one. If you don't have one, that's fine as well. There are commercial agents out there who will take you without having any like experience whatsoever. So, like I said, as long as you have a great look. Then what you want to do is you want to go to SAG-AFTRA's website, and from there you can look up SAG franchised agents. I recommend going with a SAG franchise agent. That means that they have to follow a certain specific set of rules. There are
Okay.
like there's some rules that they have to adhere to in order to be SAG franchise, and you're much more protected than going with someone who's not SAG franchise. And then you just look up like commercial agents, and then you just see how you can submit. Usually, it's like you have to send an email like introducing yourself along with the headshots, and then from there, the agent will get back to you if they're interested in representing you, usually for like a meeting or something. You have your meeting, and if they like you, they sign you, and then they start submitting you for the big stuff. Let's say no one is responding. Like you're sending out these
Mm,
emails with your headshots, no one's responding. This is what you can do, and what you should be doing, even if they do respond. Go to actorsaccess.com and go to castingnetworks.com and make a profile on each of these websites. Each of
mm,
these websites costs money to submit. I don't know how much Casting Networks costs because I don't use it anymore because I don't do commercials anymore. But I know that Actors Access is $68 for the year for unlimited submissions, which is not bad at all.
okay.
And then you go on there and start submitting to projects. Start submitting to short films, independent features, commercials that are posted on there, and try to like get some stuff under your belt, get some stuff on your resume. So again, real quick, headshots, actors access. Those are like the two things that you need like to really like start your career. And of course, this goes without saying, get in an acting class. That's super
Okay.
important. Get in
Now,
an acting class.
what about location? Because I know some people are going to write themselves off and say, "Oh, well, I live here. There's no hope. I live in this small town, or I live." So if you live in Prince George's County, how
Mhm.
important is it to go to, maybe a Hollywood in Atlanta, a New York, maybe somewhere in Texas? I don't know what, like, how, because some people, like I said, will say if I'm not there, there's no point of trying. I've heard people with that. Talked to people with that type of energy. They bank
Oh my God.
entirely on making the move. So is it really that hopeless? Is it maybe things you can do locally? I know there's
Yeah.
not the same type of acting opportunities in the DMV, but I imagine there are, but it's just super limited to the point it feels like they don't exist. That's just my perception.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, in this day and age, no. Like like I said before, you should be creating on your phone. You can make sketch comedy on your phone and post it to TikTok. You can make sketch comedy and post it on YouTube and build your own audience. Like Hollywood can essentially be anywhere thanks to technology these days. Also, just for the DMV specifically, there's a website called dragonnookconnects.com,
Okay.
where you can find acting opportunities that are casting locally. I used it, and I booked like 3 commercials when I used to live in Baltimore using that website.
Nice.
So hopefully it's still up and running, and that's something that you can use as well. But honestly, like you sh- and if you're not a self starter, this will be a challenging career for you anyway. But if you are a self starter and you're not living in Hollywood, Atlanta, or New York, you can still make content in your backyard, content that entertains millions of people. It's totally possible this day and age. And you 100% should. And the most important thing is you should be putting that content out there. The biggest mistake that I made in my earlier career was thinking that everything had to be perfect before releasing it. That was my
Hmm.
biggest mistake. I wish I would have just released my stuff as I did it, because this, just like everything else, practice takes perfect. You're gonna find what works for you and what your audience responds to. Um, so yeah, make that content. I see you sitting there on the couch. You should be up making content, making films on your phone.
I want to ask, like, how different is the version of you that we're talking to now? This is a question I presented to some of my previous guests. Like, the version of you when you first got started. Is there something that you might say to that person, or is there something profound that you've taken away from the journey when you think about how different, you are now, how you move now, maybe how you talk, how you execute when you're in front of the camera, even maybe how expectations are different.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. When I was a young kid in the Bronx.
Wait,
I'm
you're from New
joking.
York? Wait, you're being oh man.
No, no. There are people. Hopefully, there are people listening who will understand that reference. No, I'm joking.
Oh no, I
Yeah,
missed
I
it.
mean,
Was that a
yeah,
film
you
reference
did
that I
miss
missed?
it. No,
Wow.
it's
What?
a TikTok reference, dude.
Oh,
It's
I'm a dinosaur. I don't know, but I'm Facebook and Instagram is the kids already. They have so
Facebook.
many things. Well, listen, I've realized how old I am because the students. It's like every day they ask me because I look young, so they assume that I'm hip, and they'll just talk to me like I know what they're talking about. Like the Kai
Well, you're
Sanat,
like,
the I show speed. I don't know what these people. I know of them, but I'm
please,
sorry.
I'm 40 years old. No, I get it.
Well, I'm not 40 yet, but goodness gracious. But yeah, like the version
Nah,
of you now, like how different is it? Because anyone starting out, they're gonna hear what you're saying, and they're gonna, of course, try to take this information in and utilize it, but again, you were a whole different person when you started to accumulate this knowledge. Like, how
yeah.
different are you now?
Oh my God, night and day. Night and day. I am a completely different person. Um, I would tell myself, and this sounds so cheesy and maybe even a bit cliche, but it is the realest shit that I can say right now to anybody. Be who you are 100% authentically. That is what the
Mm.
world needs. And that if I was listening to this shit when I was 18, 19, I was like, ugh, whatever. I roll bullshit. That is the realest shit that I can say to any young adult right now. Like, honestly, you are enough. You are what the world is looking for. Like, be you 100% authentically, whatever that is. That is so important because I
Okay.
feel like I lost a couple of years trying to be somebody that I was not. And I mean, you knew me in
Mm.
college.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought that I would have went that way. I've always been me, 100% unapologetic. I mean, that's like a Baltimore attitude. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how we are. But I went to Hollywood and I allowed it to change me into someone that I didn't recognize anymore. And I had to wait and
Mm.
stop and say, "Wait, Jesse, this is not who you are." So yeah,
Maybe that's
just be
part of the
yourself.
process. Maybe.
Maybe,
Do you
but it
think?
doesn't have to be. It don't have to be. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be part of the
Hmm.
process. It's not like some rite of passage. You know what I'm saying? It's just difficult because you can like I said, all that rejection and all of those no's, they start to get to you, and you're like, maybe it's me. Maybe I need to be somebody else. Maybe I need to do something else. But who you are is enough.
Have you ever given up, maybe internally, and not maybe not told other people? Have you ever wavered to the
Hell
point
yeah.
where
Yes.
oh,
I gave there was I when I was up for a role for David Makes Man with Terrell Alvin McCraney, and amazing writer. And up to that point, I had been everything that I had been doing was always like, not to I'm not trying to complain. However, all the roles just weren't fulfilling me. It was always like heartthrob and popular boy, and I didn't want to do things like that. I wanted to do like roles with meat. And finally, I got
hmm,
this script. My agent sent me this script, and it didn't have a title. It was just that untitled Terrell Alvin McCraney project. And as we know, Terrell wrote Moonlight, and I
okay.
read that script when it
See, I'm
came
out of
out,
the
and I was like,
loop.
"Oh my,
I didn't.
oh
That's
my
how I.
God, this man is gifted." And I read David Makes Man, and I was like, "Oh my, I need to be a part of this." And I auditioned. They loved it. I had two more auditions, and I finally got to audition in front of Terrell, and I didn't get the part.
Wow.
And I was like, "Man, fuck this." Oh, sorry. I was I was like, "Screw this career. I'm done." And I gave up acting for a couple of years.
Oh,
I was done, man.
years.
Years.
Wow.
Years. I was like, I can't take anymore. I was so close. I was like, I can't take it. I can't take anymore. I can't do it.
Navigating
And I
your
stopped.
mental health, like with rejection, is that something where you wake up the next day and you feel like is it does it make you depressed? Do people, your friends, like, why are you so down? I mean,
Yeah,
like,
definitely. And my friends were never like, "Why are you so down?" Because they were down too. Because they were they
no.
were experiencing the same exact things.
Okay.
But yeah, I had to learn how to not take rejection personally. I
Hmm.
had to learn to be like, that is not about me, and that's not meant for me, because what's meant for me will find me. I
Mm.
uh, I believe in like divine alignment, and the things that are for me will come to me, and they will find me, and I will find them. That Terrell Alvin McCraney project, as much as I loved it, was not for me. It was not in the cards for me. But other things
I
are.
think it takes a lot of humility to think in those terms. Because just as a composer, I could tell you when you don't get something, it be times, well, me, and maybe not other people, my mind starts racing. I start having hostile thoughts and stuff, think, oh, someone got it because of nepotism. That's why I didn't get it. But it
Mm,
definitely can take a toll not getting an opportunity. In terms of like, in terms of your future, where do you see yourself in 30 years? And I know it's
um,
hard because the industry is changing every day. I mean, hopefully in 30 years, actors are not entirely computer generated. But in the future,
um,
where do you see Jesse in the
I
future?
see myself happy and wealthy,
Hmm.
and probably somewhere on an island, honestly, or just happy and wealthy and creating and having fun and enjoying my life. And I know that doesn't sound, again, vastly different. Because if you would have asked me 10 years ago, hell, 3 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, I'm gonna be like, I'm a mix between Tyler Perry, Oprah, and Steven Spielberg, and I'm gonna have a studio, and yes, yes, all those things they will come to me. But I've found that life is about so much more than all of that. Um, and so now my answer, me being a different person, is in 30 years I'm gonna be happy. Hopefully, I'm gonna have a family, um, and I'm gonna be enjoying life and the fruits of my labor.
Okay. The very last thing I do want to have is like where I ask the guest for like just an inspirational word, or uplifting word.
Okay. I'm gonna do something. It's a bit inspirational, and it's I don't know. It's wild to me. It's crazy to me. So right before the pandemic, right when the pandemic started, it was the worst year of my life. I was homeless.
Mm.
Um, my father passed. I got evicted. I My car got stolen with literally everything that I owned inside of it. Terrible, terrible
Wow.
time. I sat down and I wrote down everything that I was going to accomplish. I called it like my goals board, and I wrote it in the present tense. And so it was like, I'm so like one of the goals was like, I'm so glad that I wrote. I'm so glad that no, what was it? Oh, I'm so happy that I made $100,000 this year. It feels great. And I wrote like all my goals down, the type of car that I wanted, all that. And then the pandemic came, and I just took my goals board and I just put it away. Honestly, just forgot about it. And I was like, all right, God. And
Hmm.
and during that same year, I graduated with my master's degree.
Okay.
So this was crazy. There was a lot of stuff going on. But anyway, that same month, I started Hollywood Here, and I started with a girl named Ashley, and we started this program connecting aspiring Black writers to established writers, showrunners, like showrunners for shows like Grey's Anatomy and Power and Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, like so we did that program, and in that program, this lady reached out to us. I had never heard of her because I didn't watch her show, but Ashley was a huge fan of her. Her name's Abby Jacobson from the
Hmm.
show Broad City, and she reached out
Okay.
to us and she was like, "I want to help you guys with a certain aspect of this project." Afterwards, after we hang up the call with Abby, Ashley pulls out her vision board, and on her vision board is a picture of Abby Jacobson. So she
Oh
had
wow.
wanted to work with her one day, like it was on her vision board.
That's wild.
Um, After that, Ashley goes back because Ashley was a writer on the Proud Family. She's like, I can't help you with this anymore, but because I have a day job, but you continue with it. And so I continue doing the program for like Disney, Sony, Marvel, FX, ABC, all these companies, right?
Hmm.
Connecting Black writers with executives, so we can level the playing field in Hollywood. Um, about a year passes, and I pull out my goals board where I had written things down, and I started to check off all of the things. I would start going through like the list of goals that I had written down, and I was able to check off like seven out of like 10 things. It was crazy. It was like I'm
Wow.
gonna make $100,000 for the year. I made like quadruple that, more honestly. Um, I was like,
Wow.
I'm so glad I got to purchase my dream car. Um, did that. I bought a Mustang, a drop top Mustang. Like all of these goals
Nice.
that I had, I just started checking them off like one by one. And I just remember sitting there like, this is crazy. A year ago, I was homeless, literally.
Jeez.
Like I had to stay with my best friend because I didn't have anywhere else to go. And now look at, so I just say like, don't underestimate the importance of writing down your goals and being specific about them. And I would
Hmm.
recommend writing them down as if they've already happened. I
I know
write
people
them
that
down
do
in a way.
vision boards regularly. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yes.
that's something I want to get into. My best friend, he does. He just got his doctorate. He does his vision board like yearly or every spring. And typically around that
Hmm.
time, I'll BS and say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna work on mine too," and I don't. I just try to fit in with his energy sometimes. But I do think that's important what you're saying. To write down your goals in terms of visualizing them, because I think when you don't write them down and you just keep them in your head, it just becomes fluid and it just constantly
Hmm.
changes with whatever your situation is. So I do think that's
Yeah,
important to write them down.
it's important. And I would recommend writing them down as if they already happened and expressing gratitude for it. I'm so
Mm.
thankful that I was able to XYZ. It's already done, it's written. Every religion in the world talks about the power of manifestation. The Bible says life and death is in the power of the tongue. Like, it's all real. Manifest. Write it down. It's gonna happen.
All right.
So
And
that's
then
crazy to me.
no, I get
That's
it.
my crazy story.
I think
Wait, that's my crazy story and my inspirational story all up mixed into
yeah,
one.
because I was thinking I was going to ask the final word, but I think that was kind of a final. I mean, if you had something else to offer, just and it doesn't have to be just for young people. You can get into acting when you're 50 or 60 years old. I know people that I've looked up to, and then I randomly find out on the internet on a meme or something that I think they say Harrison Ford was a carpenter before Indiana Jones and Star Wars. There's like a picture of him in a carpenter. I don't know if that's real, but I do know there's a lot of stories like that. Um, is there something maybe a lift me up or a profound statement you can say to anybody who wants to get into acting, young or old? Maybe someone's given up hope. Maybe someone thinks it's too late. That's just a pipe dream at this point. What would you say to
Hmm.
them?
I have an original quote that I plug whenever I can.
Okay.
Um, I came up with it in high school, but it goes: "Science puts man on the moon, but imagination has man thinking that such a thing is even possible." Um, and basically, to me, wait, hold up. You're supposed to give like a after because
Oh,
it's
I
so
can't.
profound.
I
We need
can't.
to
Yeah, because
let's take that back.
that's fine. Because I felt like I was doing it too much, and this just so you know, this. On behalf of Aspire PGC, thank you to everyone who joined us for this conversation and to the many, many friends, family, and fellow educators that have supported and offered critical feedback. To learn more about Aspire PGC and about upcoming episodes, you can visit us online at www.aspire-pgc.org. Take care.